Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. Quick shout out to my newest patrons, Gan TJ and Blake T. Thank you for choosing to support the channel. It's been well documented as of late that Chinese EV makers are looking to expand globally. Now we have Chinese battery makers looking to do the exact same thing. CATL is making expanding overseas a top priority as it sees less room for growth in the competitive domestic market. CATL plans to add 2 extra factories overseas to the 6 it has already planned. The computers across CATL factories all had the wallpaper, "Whoever goes overseas is the hero of the company. Go out and go overseas." Robin Zhang, the founder and chair of CATL, said the international situation will change rapidly in 2024, but the trend of new energy is an international consensus, and the temporary uncertainty will instead give more opportunities to those who are capable. We've talked about how Ford and CATL have plans for a battery plant in Michigan, and we learned about Tesla and CATL working together in some capacity for a factory in Nevada. We learned a bit more about how that may work. CATL is looking to expand overseas through technology licensing. They've been in talks with about 10 OEMs for cooperation under LRS, a license royalty service model. Under that model, CATL provides technology licensing as well as plant construction and operation services to help global OEMs and even the company's peers quickly master battery production capabilities, which sounds a lot like what we heard Tesla planning to do with CATL using some of their older equipment for that new factory in Nevada. They said in China, as the growth in the domestic market nears saturation, globalization will be the next most important growth space for CATL. As a reminder, CATL is the world's largest battery maker, installing 259 gigawatt hours of batteries in 2023, and it continued to rank first in the world with a 36.8% share of the market last year. Tesla will likely need plenty of LFP cells that will primarily come from CATL for the Cybercab and of course for the Megapack. Then when you factor in all of the battery production incentives right now in the United States and the much higher tariffs on batteries imported from China, paired with CATL now having these global licensing ambitions, there's a perfect storm of sorts brewing for Tesla. There's still a fair amount of uncertainty here, but if Tesla can expand its partnership with CATL in the United States and capture at least some of the battery production incentives for using CATL's technology, it could be a win-win for both parties. On this front, we also learned today some of the steep tariff increases, like those on EVs and batteries from China, will go into effect on August 1st. There is, however, going to be a 30-day public comment period that will wrap up on June 28th. The new measures affect about $18 billion in current imported Chinese goods, including steel and aluminum, semiconductors, EVs, critical minerals, solar cells, and cranes. One of the bigger categories is lithium-ion batteries, making up $13.2 billion of that number. However, $10.9 billion of that number is for non-vehicle lithium-ion batteries. That leaves about $2.3 billion of lithium batteries that are specifically for EVs that are going to be impacted by these increased tariffs. Don't forget, this technology licensing push from CATL, if it takes place in the United States, would also protect jobs, which really is one of the main goals of these new tariffs. And sure, in an ideal world, Tesla would be making LFP batteries on its own, but as we've been seeing the past few months with 4680s, making batteries is an incredibly difficult task. Yes, even for a company like Tesla with a wealth of engineering talent. Energy Storage News has been talking to some of the industry players, and we're now getting some reactions about the news of these tariffs. China accounts for only about 2% of EV sales in the US. One of those examples would be the Polestar 2. But the effect on batteries and solar will be more substantial. On the battery front, the effect will be more pronounced for lithium iron phosphate, LFP cells, with Chinese companies virtually the only ones producing them. Wood Mackenzie is also predicting the outcome of these tariffs is to increase the cost of grid-scale battery storage by 6% starting in 2026. And one thought to keep in mind, even with the tariffs that are being proposed, you'll still see batteries from China being sold to the US because they're that competitive on price and their technology is market leading. It really is a tough one. There's so much nuance to the conversation, but from a high level, of course, protecting jobs is an important thing, but so is having competitive and affordable prices for all of these products for consumers. So I hope we don't end up in a world where in the short term we go out of our way to protect all of these jobs to then build products that a few years from now the mainstream still can't actually afford, and those companies and those jobs end up going out of business anyway. We got some new car registration data from the ACEA for the European Union. Looking at full BEVs across the EU from January to April, a total of 441.9 thousand BEVs were registered, which was a 6.4% increase from the previous year. On this chart, we're just going to focus on the left where we see full battery electric data, and this is year to date, January through April. So far this year, Germany is still leading the way with over 111,000 registrations, but France is in a close second at 104.6 thousand. In third place, we have Belgium at over 40,000, and in fourth place, we have the Netherlands at over 39,000. Rounding out the top 5 is Sweden at 25.2 thousand. Also of note though, looking at year over year data, Germany is down 10.8% while France is actually up 27.7%. Given the EV subsidies being taken away in Germany, this should come as no surprise. But again, across the board for the EU, full EV sales are actually up over 6% year to date. Here we have the breakdown by manufacturer. Also across the EU, we're just looking at January through April. In terms of units for Tesla, they're at 77.1 thousand for this year, down from 80.3 thousand last year, down 4% year over year. Thus, for this time frame, Tesla's market share has gone from 2.3% down to 2.1% this year. So far though, things are even worse for Ford as their registrations are down over 15%. I'd also note that Volvo has seen strong growth, up 45%, and it's not like they're coming from a super small base, going from 70,000 last year to over 101,000 the same time frame this year. This means that of the volume players, which I'm defining as over 50,000 units during this time frame, only 4 of them are negative, 1 being Tesla, 2 being Ford, 3 being the Hyundai Group, and 4 being Mercedes-Benz. All other volume players are positive so far year to date. And in case you see articles reporting other data, there is another chart which is the EU, the EFTA, and the UK all combined together. With this data, Tesla is actually down 7.9% year to date, and their market share has fallen from 2.6% last year to 2.2% this year. It should go without saying, but don't forget, Tesla did have a tumultuous Q1, which is affecting their year over year numbers, especially across the European Union. Throw in the changeover to the new Model 3 and these EV incentives being removed in places around the EU, and these numbers could actually be a lot worse. As we all know, legacy media loves negativity, specifically when it's directed at Elon and Tesla. Luckily for us, there's now a way to cut through all of that nonsense and get direct to the factuality of these sources by knowing who actually owns the sources and what is the political leaning of each source. That's all thanks to Ground News, the sponsor of this video. Ground News is a website and an app developed by a former NASA engineer to highlight the bias distribution and political affiliation of each media source based on ratings from 3 independent news monitoring organizations. The truth is, many of you have reached out to me unprompted to let me know how much you've been enjoying Ground News. What's nice for people like us is you can create your own custom list, and I have one for just Tesla and Elon breaking news. Perhaps even more importantly though, during an election year like this one, Ground News is top tier for cutting through the political noise. In my experience so far, this feature alone has made Ground News a company that I'm happy to support whether they support the channel or not. So I'd highly encourage you to check out their election page where you can check out all of the candidates and all of the latest breaking news with all of the political bias for each source. You can head to ground.news/electrified linked below to get 40% off unlimited access to the Vantage plan, which is what I use. Or if it's easier, you can use the QR code right on the screen. As always, thanks for considering supporting the channel in this way. There was an article going around about this AI summit that just took place in Seoul, Korea, and they shared this image including Elon, which would lead the reader to believe that Tesla or XAI was in attendance. However, I went to look up the official list of the attendees, and when it comes to governments, yes, the United States was listed. And here's the clarification for Elon. He was there on behalf of XAI. Tesla was nowhere to be found on the list. One significant outcome of this summit was an agreement to implement a kill switch policy for AI. It would halt the development of their most advanced AI models if they were deemed to have surpassed certain risk thresholds. On the surface, sure, it sounds great, but some glaring problems. One would be the effectiveness of this policy, because right now there's no legal framework to actually enforce it. Second, they really did not clearly define what these risk thresholds actually are in practice. And third, what about all of the companies developing AI that were not at this summit? The good news is at least the world is waking up to some of these potential dangers, and people are actively talking about finding solutions. On the ChargePoint website, it appears as though they've teamed up with Airbnb and they're offering an exclusive welcome package for Airbnb hosts. They can get over 25% off a ChargePoint charger and $100 off installation. Seems like a no-brainer partnership. ChargePoint can sell more of its hardware and software, and Airbnb hosts can attract more guests to their locations. Today, SunPower has announced it'll now be offering Tesla's Powerwall 3 as part of its curated portfolio of high-quality and affordable solar and storage products. Their senior vice president said homeowners are increasingly turning to battery storage to protect themselves against utility rate hikes and grid outages. We witnessed record-breaking battery storage sales in 2024 and see a future where almost all solar systems are paired with storage. Pairing the Tesla Powerwall 3 with our industry-leading SunPower Equinox solar system was a natural progression in offering homeowners the best products on the market. It's projected that 1 in every 4 American homeowners who install rooftop solar this year will also add battery storage. They said the Tesla Powerwall has become one of the most sought-after battery storage solutions, accounting for over half of home battery installations last year. SunPower Financial will also be offering lease financing for the Tesla battery installations, as about 82% of SunPower customers choose to finance their solar plus storage system. That means their customers can seamlessly finance their Powerwall 3 with no down payment, affordable monthly payments, and a fast application process. SunPower conducted rigorous testing to confirm the Powerwall 3 meets SunPower's high performance and quality standards, integrating with other products in its portfolio. For some context about how big SunPower is, they added 16,000 new customers in Q4 of last year and 75.9 thousand new customers for the entirety of 2023. Just for easy math, if SunPower were to add another 80,000 customers over the next 12 months, and let's say roughly 25% of them want a Powerwall 3, that would be 20,000 Powerwall 3 orders for Tesla. I am by no means advocating getting involved in something like this, but just so you know, there is a Cybertruck listed for sale on Doug DeMuro's Cars and Bids. Right now, there's 6 days left, and the high bid is $140,000. A potentially exciting development from Joe Tetmeyer. He said it's Idra delivery day at Giga Texas, this time to the die shop. He said this is important for casting design, testing, maintenance, and future products. So, could this be related to the upcoming Cybercab? I think there's a decent chance. We are currently 77 days away from the Robotaxi Unveil event. This right here could serve as a moment of truth of sorts for Tesla's FSD, specifically when it comes to locations across Europe. Tomorrow, at the Grand Ridge Virtual Association, Tesla, along with other automakers, will show off the best of their autonomous driving solutions. The United Nations Economic Commission for Europe, or UNECE, is one of 5 regional commissions of the United Nations Economic and Social Council. And then within that organization, the Working Party on Automated, Autonomous, and Connected Vehicles, which they refer to as GRVA, focuses on developing international regulations, guidelines, and interpretations for the safety and performance of automated and connected vehicles. Thus, the GRVA operates as a subsidiary of sorts under the UNECE. On the Ride and Drive sign-up spreadsheet, Tesla was featured, confirming FSD version 12 will be on display. Each ride will last 30 minutes and can support up to 3 people per ride. Tesla will bring 4 cars to the event, but other automakers like Aptiv, BMW, BMW, Ford, Mobileye, GM, and Mercedes will be there as well. I thought it was interesting for GM. They said they're going to have a Cruise AV there, but it's only going to be for a static display. For the actual ride and drive, GM is only going to showcase Super Cruise and their hands-free tech. We've been talking the past few months about these new regulations across the EU that have been steps in the right direction, but they still don't really allow for those system-initiated maneuvers, which is a majority of what Tesla's FSD version 12 actually does. So not to overhype this, but this seems like an incredible opportunity for Tesla to differentiate itself from the competition directly to these regulators working at the UNECE. China's already racing forward with autonomy and has a great relationship with Elon and Tesla. In the US, Tesla executives already said they're not worried at all about getting widespread approval, so it's really across the EU that's going to be the toughest challenge. So hopefully these regulators have a great experience with version 12, and then in the months ahead can actually begin easing some of these regulations to allow for those system-initiated maneuvers, and ultimately FSD hitting the streets much sooner across the EU. The 2024 Gen Cost report has just been released. This is the leading economic report by CSIRO, Australia's national science agency. They started this report back in 2018, and for this year's report, they had the highest volume ever of input and feedback from other industry players. For the first time ever, this report included large-scale nuclear for the Australian market after a lot of pushback from the pro-nuclear crowd. They found that while generation units of that scale are unprecedented in Australia, there are no known technical barriers. It also determined nuclear power was more expensive than renewables and would take at least 15 years to develop, including construction. This reflects the absence of a development pipeline, the additional legal safety and security steps required, and weighing the evidence provided by stakeholders. They also said wind power is recovering the slowest from global inflationary pressures, and cost projections for both onshore and offshore wind have been revised upwards in the next decade. Despite that, updated modeling found that renewables, including costs associated with additional storage and transmission, remain the lowest cost new build technology. Not only that, but the gap between renewables and nuclear has widened despite the addition of integration and transmission costs to wind and solar, even with up to a 90% renewable share. To date, we have not talked much about nuclear on the channel, but just to be clear, I would be a proponent of the technology as part of a multifaceted energy approach globally. But for now, and just for the Australian market, it seems unlikely that nuclear will play an outsized role anytime soon, at least in part thanks to the cost of renewables being so attractive. And as we all know, what goes very well with wind and solar? Tesla Megapacks. Stanwell Corporation in Australia says most of the heavy lifting is done at the 300 megawatt 2-hour big battery it's building at the site of its Tarong coal power plant, with the last of the project's 164 Tesla Megapacks now lifted into place at the site in Queensland. This station, one of Australia's largest remaining coal plants, plans to close in 2036. With the last of the Megapacks now in place, contractors will focus on connecting them to transformers as well as installing high voltage underground conduits and feeder cable, and preparing for the delivery of the 2 switch rooms, slowly but surely displacing coal 1 megapack at a time. We have the hotel zone of Cancun, which installed a Tesla battery that allows storing solar energy to operate a 200-room hotel during peak hours. This model has spread throughout the destination, and there are at least 4 hotels in the Riviera Maya with this type of project. Now the first investment has been registered in Cancun. There are also talks taking place to install this type of energy solution in at least 30,000 rooms from Costa Mujeres, Cancun, and the Riviera Maya, with an investment of around $500 million US. It sounds like these megapacks are being paired with solar panels as well. The Parnassus Hotel is the first in Cancun to have a Tesla battery. As we've said many times in the past, there are many uses for Tesla's Megapack outside of just the utility sector. On X, Kevin said the Foundation Series Cybertruck may soon come to an end. He didn't have a source to begin with, but luckily the Cybertruck program manager chimed in saying that's not correct, we are actively building Foundation Series. Sure, it's pretty vague, but at this point I think there's a chance not even Tesla knows when it's going to end the Foundation Series, All I know is from this post, I would not expect it to be wrapping up in the next few weeks. European automakers will have another challenge on its hands as BYD's Seagull is set to hit the market, even after tariffs and modifications to meet standards. BYD executives are saying it'll sell for less than $21.5 thousand. They said an anti-subsidy investigation by Brussels is unlikely to extinguish the threat, and the head of Ford's European division said, "We're looking very closely at this model and others coming from Chinese EV makers. Of course, we are nervous when new competition is coming to the market." A BYD exec said, "Mexico is not great for us," most likely referring to the lack of charging infrastructure, "but in the end we found a lot of demand, a lot of heat for this," referring to the BYD Seagull. In Mexico, however, they refer to that vehicle as the Dolphin Mini, where it sells for $19.7 thousand. As I said before, some European automakers like Mercedes and BMW would be hit harder and are more at risk from any backlash from China increasing their own tariffs. Today, China just said it could unleash its own 25% tariffs on vehicles imported from the EU with large engines, which would of course hurt Mercedes and BMW. So European automakers are more vulnerable as they sell to the Chinese market, and we have to keep in mind the EU has all of its plans to move to EVs, so they have to do that one way or another. This afternoon, Tesla released this cyber vessel tumbler of sorts, but it's already out of stock. As we've seen over and over from Legacy Auto, VW just announced they're delaying the launch of its ID.7 sedan in the United States and Canada, citing changing market conditions. VW is committed to making market-driven choices while listening to our customers. As of now, VW has not given an updated timeline on when the ID.7 could make it to North America. We got a new interview from Ted Ogawa, the CEO of Toyota Motor North America. Here it is. He was asked, "Do you think the criticism that Toyota has received from outside groups agitating for more EVs is fair?" His response, "Yeah, of course. To compare our battery to Tesla, we are behind. That's true. However, we're catching up, not only the product, but also the ecosystem surrounding the BEV area, like the home charging or energy management." That right there was a standing ovation for his candor. He was asked about Toyota's nearly $14 billion battery plant under construction in North Carolina. Their next BEV coming up in 2025 will be built in Kentucky on the #1 line. Currently, we're producing Camry there, but the Camry is going to move to the #2 line, and the #1 line is going to the BEV. He said China's economy is very much slowing down. That's why they have huge extra capacity, so they have much pressure to keep producing. And on the pickup front, they are looking at ways to electrify it. For now, though, they're saying electrification for a full-size pickup is not a good chemistry with those customers. But they think mid-size or smaller size, that's where the opportunity to go electric lies. He said, "So for us, it's one of the opportunities to think about the smaller size than Tacoma pickup in the future." It's kind of wild how refreshing it was to hear somebody from Toyota actually speak the truth about their positioning relative to Tesla, rather than deflecting or defending their hybrid strategy. Manufacturing executives from the world's legacy automakers have visited Caresoft's gutted Model Y. They're trying to understand how Tesla builds EVs with dramatically fewer parts, and they're looking for new ideas that can be adopted in their own manufacturing processes. Caresoft engineers have demonstrated how Tesla's Model Y front end can be put together basically with the same effort as Lego blocks. It's a demonstration of speed and simplicity that would be jarring to the manufacturing engineering executives at most legacy automakers. They said, take the frunk of the Model Y. It has just 5 components that are mostly snapped into place and uses so few fasteners they all can fit in the palm of your hand. By comparison, the frunk of an unidentified legacy automaker's EV consists of 27 parts and requires 118 fasteners, the majority of which are hidden. Further, the Model Y's front fascia also reveals greatly simplified manufacturing. It consists of 7 parts, weighs just over 26 pounds, and uses 32 fasteners consisting of 7 types. Just 1 wire connection is required. A competitive car from a legacy automaker has a front fascia that has 28 parts, weighs more than 34 pounds, uses 61 fasteners consisting of 8 types, and has 2 wire connections. Referring to Tesla's strategy, a best part is no part, a Caresoft exec said the engineering of those parts is gone. The tooling of those parts is gone. The dunnage required to carry those parts is gone. The shipping is gone. The receiving is gone. The inventory is gone. Those types of things drive down costs and enable Tesla to manufacture the car more cost effectively. I think at the heart of it, and of course in addition to the tech and the fun of Tesla, it's this manufacturing prowess that we really love the company for, not all of this drama that's out there in the Tesla community right now. Look, engage in that if you want to, but friendly reminder, you can follow Tesla without getting involved in the drama. Caresoft's conclusion, it spells tough competition for traditional automakers. Ford has asked dealers to pause implementation of its EV certification program as it works to finalize some changes. Ford plans to meet with its dealer council in early June to further tweak the program based on feedback. Among the many topics discussed in 11 meetings with about 1,000 dealers across 6 cities was the rapidly changing EV market. Ford said, "We're going to look at everything from floor plan assistance to our commitment to longer-term remote experiences, our Model E standards, and Ford credit policies." They said 93% of the dealers who attended the meetings left with higher confidence in the brand. Reading between the lines, this will likely mean good things for Ford's relationship with its dealers, but it's going to mean bad things for the ultimate EV transition. For the first time in a long time, Tesla actually released some safety data when it comes to both autopilot and their vehicle fires. For the intro, as you can see on the screen, Tesla covered a lot of what makes them such a great company when it comes to safety. A lot of this are things that we already know, but if you ever needed a screenshot to share with family members or friends when they talk about safety in Tesla, this would be a good idea for that. Looking at the actual data of Tesla's miles driven per one accident, you can see in Q1 of 2024, Tesla set a new record for this metric. In the first quarter, Tesla recorded one crash for every 7.63 million miles driven in which drivers were using autopilot. For drivers who were not using autopilot, we recorded one crash for every 955,000 miles driven. By comparison, using the most recent data available, which was from 2022, it shows in the US there was an automobile crash approximately every 670,000 miles, which yes, means you can say without being wrong that Teslas on autopilot are 10 times safer. And here's a simple chart you can share with people showing vehicle fire data comparing Tesla vehicles to the US average. Translation, when it comes to vehicle fires, Tesla is roughly 7 to 8 times safer than the United States average. And look, as we've been over in the past, there are limitations with this data, but it's good to see Tesla putting it out there again, and as we would expect, safety continues to improve. I'm not going to waste your time here. I just wanted to inform us all that Timothy B. Lee from Ars Technica should be called out. He said Tesla's FSD 12.3 still lags behind Waymo's technology, saying Waymo is just so far ahead that it's dealing with challenges Tesla has not even started thinking about. Waymo is playing chess while Tesla is still playing checkers. No worries though, I have saved the article and I've tracked down Timothy on X, so when the time is right, we'll be sure to correct him and that article. And again, I am in the process of creating forums where I can respond to articles like this. Panasonic said it's looking to more than double its domestic production of EV batteries. They said our challenge regarding the profit for the auto battery business comes from a huge drop in demand for batteries used in specific models. Panasonic has slashed output from its EV battery factory in Japan due to slowing demand from key client Tesla. Obviously, we know Tesla sales are flat year over year. I just wanted to add Tesla could be replacing some of its Panasonic supply from one of its other suppliers. Tesla stock closed the day at $180.11, down 3.48%, while the Nasdaq was down 0.18%. It was a lower volume day for Tesla, trading about 9 million shares below the average volume the past 30 days. Don't forget, check out Ground News linked below. It's an awesome way to stay informed with breaking news without a lot of the media bias. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Please like the video if you did. You can find me on X linked below, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.